We are live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello, Guy.
2020, the world's gone mad, and the team you manage is all over the place.
Yeah, I can see your neutral balance, so
yeah, it's good.
Everything's good.
I'm just impressed people have been joining from the Northern Lights. Amazing.
Yes. Everywhere and anywhere.
The world's gone mad, and the team you manage is all over the place.
Yeah, I can see your neutral balance, so.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, cool. If you can help just admit people for the moment.
I'm just impressed. Northern Lights. Amazing.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Teh. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the April London Excel Meetup, which isn't actually in London. Thank you everyone for attending. We've got a lot of people coming in. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping and a few things to mention, and then we'll get on with the hot stuff. So we're streaming live on YouTube as well as this Zoom, just to make sure everybody's aware. And this is organised by myself, Alan, from Computergaga, and also by Detel Productions. So a special thank you for them, and for Taya, who's helping to monitor what's going on whilst I speak.
No worries.
First thing I wanted to get out of the way, just to quickly mention, is that the next meetup is going to be on Tuesday, the 5th of May. And that's going to be a presentation by Danielle Stone-Fairhurst from Plum Solutions. Slightly different time. You can see it's going to start at 7 o'clock London, UK time. Slightly later because she is based in Sydney, Australia. So we're dragging her out of bed for that one, which she's really happy about. And she's going to be speaking about performing scenarios, sensitivities, and what-if analysis in Excel. More importantly for now, I wanted to quickly mention, I'll let Clippy mention it for me, that especially those new to Zoom, is first of all for people to be muted. Tayo's going to help control that while people are speaking, in case we accidentally unmute and we don't get too many issues there. And also if we can turn cameras off. Everything seems to be okay at the moment, but just a little bit wary about if it strains the Zoom system, if we have too much going on. Questions, feel free to put questions in the chat box. I can see some people are chatting in there now. You can access that through a little toolbar, which if you move your mouse, you should get a toolbar at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see access to a participants window and also to a chat window. And if you can put any questions in the chat window, then myself or anybody else who's participating can hopefully help answer that, or we'll put it to the instructor at the time. But we'll try not to interfere with the instructor too much, because there might be a lot of questions going on. So just pop it in there. If we can answer it at the time, great. Otherwise, hopefully we'll get back to you later. When you are in the chat, just be careful of the little drop down at the bottom. You can see I've got a gorgeous red arrow going to it at the moment. Make sure that's set to everyone. It has a nice tendency to change and direct it to an individual. So just keep an eye on what that says down there before you write your message. Yes, and I don't think there's much more to say on that. Have I said everything I want to say? I think I've said everything I want to say. So I'll get rid of myself. First presenter we're going to have up is going to be Celia Alves. I'll let her introduce herself and do what she needs to do. And then we have Andreas Thehos speaking after Celia. He's going to do some stuff from Power Automate. And then we're going to finish with Tony de Jonker from the Netherlands, who's going to send us into the night or into the afternoon for some of you in the morning with some Excel tips. So if I mute myself and be quiet for me, Celia, if you can take over if you don't mind.
Can you hear me and see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Alan and Tia, for organizing, for inviting me. Very exciting. No, we are not in London as we had planned, but it's still very exciting to be here and to have the opportunity to speak to all people all over the world. Thank you to all of those who joined. Thank you for your trust and for your time. Let's then start. My name is Celia Alves. I am originally from Portugal. This was my city there, lady, and then I moved to Canada 2013. I've been here for almost 7 years, and my background in terms of academic education was in mathematics and education. I then taught mathematics in high school for almost 20 years back in Portugal, until we decided to move to Canada. When I moved to Canada, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wasn't very excited about starting a career, teaching career from scratch. So I was searching for other possibilities. And at some point, Excel just showed up in the picture as something that people needed. People need professionals who know Excel, who can create solutions for them. And that's how I ended up being a consultant, starting on one of my employment positions and then moving over as independent contractor. I'm certified as Microsoft Excel expert last year, and I also founded a meetup group for Excel here in Toronto that you are more than welcome to join if you'd like, especially now that all the sessions are happening online like this one, so everyone is welcome. Today I'm going to talk about Power Query. I'm not going to do a basic teaching of what it is for and how can we use it. So I am assuming that everyone is already using Power Query somehow, or at least is aware of what Power Query can do. And the purpose of the session today is more about making people aware of some of the things that we need to pay attention to. I'm also going to mention a few cool features there that we can use. So it's impossible to tell or to teach and mention everything that is cool about Power Query in just a short time, but I hope I can bring you a small selection of different items and that you find them useful. So Power Query, as you know, is an ETL tool. ETL stands for extraction, transformation, and loading. That means that is a tool that we have in Excel. It also exists in other programs, but we are focusing on Excel today. That allows us to connect to data sources and bring the data to us. And before loading the data on our spreadsheet, we may want to transform the data in case data needs some type of cleansing, or we are not interested in bringing all the records available and all the details available. Those who start using Power Query, I'm sure they will find it quite easy to start learning and working with it, and it kind of gets a little bit addictive. At least for me, it did. It's a lot of fun to work with Power Query. But there are also a few things that we need to pay attention, because if we don't pay attention to what's going on the back of the actions that we record on Power Query, we may end up creating situations that in fact produce wrong results. I will mention at least one example for that. Okay, so I'm going to move over to my Excel file for the first example. Here I have a file that has already some queries built in. It has a sales reps table with names and percentages of commission that each one is earning. And then we have another query. So if you go here, data, and then queries and connections, here on the right, we can see that there are already a few queries built. If someone has troubles in being able to see everything properly, please remind me and I can do a zoom, okay? Zoom the screen for you. So in this case, we have two queries built here. One is just reading the information that we have on this table, and the other one is pointing to a folder where we have some data. I'm going to show you that folder. It's pointing to this folder here, where we have two subfolders, one for 2019, one for 2020. And inside each folder, there are monthly reports, all CSV files. Just going to open one so that you can see what's going on in there. And we will see that we have lists of transactions indicating who bought, date, so name of the client and name of the sales representative who took care of the sale, and the amount. The idea here is to, okay, we collect all this information. I want to know how much I'm going to pay in commissions to each one of the sale representatives based on what they sold and based on their commission. So I'm not going to go through all the steps to build this. It's not difficult. We have this query here that already generated that report that we can see here on the left. It's almost ready. The only thing I would say is that, for example, this first column that indicates the month, we could actually get the month a different way, but in this case, we are getting the month from the name of the file. And I'm going to extract the first characters of the name of the file. And by doing that, I want to let's see if I can move this over. Yeah, let me grab this over outside my screen. I think it's much better now. Sorry for that. So I want to have the month here, but just these 7 characters on the left of each string. And what I will use this example just to mention the following. We have an extract button. Here on the transform tab, we have an extract button that will help us do exactly that. But if we go to the add column tab, we also have the same button. And for the longest time, I didn't realize there was a difference between the two buttons. They seemed the same to me. I thought they were doing the same. In fact, they don't do the same. It depends on which tab we choose. So if we choose the tab transform, it will transform the column. If I choose the tab add column, it will maintain this column, and then we get a new column with the action that we are doing. So if I go here and do first characters and choose, should come up the dialog box anytime. And I say, I want 7 characters, okay. It gives me a new column. And now if I don't want the first column, I would have to delete that one and then move this one over to the beginning if I want that at the beginning of my table. So there's a few ways to do that. But instead of doing that, I'm going to delete here. And what we actually want is to use the transform tab and use the button extract from there. Oh, sorry, just clicked here somewhere. In fact, I want, okay. Wonder why this popped up. Just a second. In fact, I want to show you that later, but not now. Okay. So we want to go to the transform tab and transform this column. Okay, so extract first characters and 7 characters. Okay, and now I get my column cleaned. Everything looks nice as I want it to be, and it's just faster. So this is a very simple tool tip, but I find that every time I mention this on different sessions, always someone is very surprised that, oh, I never realized that these were different, and that's why sometimes I get 2 columns, other times I don't get 2 columns. So let's go close and load, just to get our report here all updated, and now we have much cleaner report. So we are, in fact, I didn't show you the source. We will get there, but we are pointing to the 2019 folder at the moment. Okay. Other things that I would like to point. One is that thing that just popped up when I was on my previous explanation. View column, quality, distribution, and profile, and also query dependency view. So I'm going to double click my query again to open the query editor. And I just want to point out a few tools that we have here that I find them quite useful. And they are relatively new in Excel. So those who were using or are using Power Query, have been using Power Query in Power BI, for example, they have had this tool for a longer time. In Excel, it came later. If we notice this bar, it's green now, it's a good sign. And if we over it, we will see some kind of statistics. If we had some kind of errors or empty cells in our column, they would show a different color or a different layout. We can see more details, in fact, if we go to view and I go here to column quality, I get more information. And this is very useful, especially when we are dealing with long lists of data, long sets of data with many records, many rows. It's impossible to see them here all in the Power Query editor. In fact, Power Query only shows us a preview of our data. So we can refer to this to try to catch any possible errors or mistakes, things that need to be taken care of in our data. We also have column distribution that gives us more information here. And then I'm going to uncheck these ones, and also column profile that gives us more statistics here and more information. So and you can even copy these numbers, statistics, if you want to paste somewhere else. I just encourage you to try this. And of course, if we go and select another column, it gives the information about that column. I encourage you to try these ones, these features. They might become very handy. The other thing is, since we are here, is in the View tab inside the Power Query editor, we have the query dependencies. This is also very useful, especially in situations where you have a lot of queries and a lot of dependencies between them. It's not the case in this workbook. We only have 2 queries, and so this is quite straightforward. But this tool, I wanted to mention that it's available there for you when you need it. There's a few things that you can do. You can, for example, if you select one of the queries, it will highlight all the queries that come that are before and come after. So all the queries that provide, for example, if I click this one, it highlights all the queries that are somehow providing information to generate this last query. And if there was, in this case, there isn't any extra information, but if I click this one, it says it comes from there, goes to there. It also tells us if the queries are being loaded to a spreadsheet, to a worksheet, like in this case, or if they are being loaded to the data model. It's not the case for any of the queries that I have in this example, but there's a lot of information here that is useful. Another thing that is also interesting is that here at the bottom, let's see if I can show you this better. Here at the bottom, you can see that are a few options that you can use, and this is the way the diagram is displayed. So we are using top to bottom, but if we wanted, we could also, if you prefer, for example, left to right, then I have my queries like this. So the diagram is built from left to right. It depends on your preference. Okay, so there's other things that there's another interesting tool that I wanted to point out here. There's also, if you right click, you can center to view. This is useful also when there's a lot of queries here in the same diagram and you need to focus on just a portion. So just another thing that I wanted to show you for those who were not aware. And what else? What else was I wanting to show you? Okay. Another thing that I find interesting, copy queries. Let's say I want to create a new book, a new workbook, and I want to recreate some of the queries in this new workbook. I'm going to divide my screen here. Okay, I want to bring one of the queries over there. I can just simply, instead of repeating all my work, I can just come to, one of the ways is doing this way. So come to the data tab and queries and connections to show the queries and connections pane. And now we can just simply, let's say I wanted to copy this query, which is just connecting to the sales representatives table. I can just come here and do Control-C or copy, and then click there and paste. Of course, I will get an error here because it's complaining that it cannot find the table with the vendor's information in this workbook because the workbook is empty. So then we would have to go edit the query and add the table here, or reference the query to the workbook where the table is. But it replicates all the steps exactly as they come, as they were on the previous query, I mean. You can also, for example, this one, if you remember from the diagram, this query is connected to a number of other queries, including some of these helper queries here that are generated when we create a query connected, a query to a folder, which is the case here. So if I go copy and then come here and do paste, it brings all the other queries that are needed to make this one work. And of course, again, we would have to find to fix any details that are needed to eliminate these errors here. Data sources, point them correctly. Another interesting thing is that if we instead of pasting on the pane there, let me just open my notepad here. I can also come and open any text editor and do Control-V. And I get all the M code of the 4 queries that were pasted. Double slash indicates that is a comment. This is a comment, so it's just a comment indicating the name of the query, and then we get all the M code that had been generated when I created the queries on the other file. So if for some reason I need to do some work editing the M code, I can also do this. It's very can be very handy as well. I find it. I hope you find it too. Okay, so let's close this workbook. Don't need to save. And for this example here, I want to show one more thing, and this is one of the questions that I get more about Power Query is, okay, I now know how to connect a workbook to another workbook or to a folder. But there's two kinds of situations. One is I need to change that folder, and in every now and then, because every month the folder name will be different. For example, there's one situation where this technique may apply to, and the other situation is, okay, that's fine, but you know, I have this file on a shared folder in Dropbox or another cloud, even OneDrive or whatever, with someone else. And when this person opens the file on their end, of course, for example, here, I have the path to this file. First part won't be the same for the other user. So the queries don't work on their end. How can we fix, how can we make this, in this case, I'm demonstrating for two things. One is to make them dynamic. If I want, for example, to change my folder from 2019 to 2020, and or to, if I want this to work on another machine or another folder, if I move my files. Okay, so two things. One is in one cell, create a formula that makes the the query, not the query, sorry, makes the path for this file show up. So this formula here, I can then show you the formula later. I can send the file and the information after the session for those who need this. There's also a YouTube video on my channel that explains this formula and this technique. Not exactly the same technique, but the first part is the same. So this formula here, I'm not sure if you can see correctly. Let's see if I can put a zoom here. It uses the left formula and the cell formula to get the path of the current workbook that I'm using. And then at the end, I have this other portion that is not highlighted to indicate where the folder is. So if you remember, sales report and then C4. So if you remember, I can show you the folder again. I have my file here. The master file is the file that I'm using. And then inside the same folder of the master file, there's a sales report folder. And then inside that, there's two subfolders. So that's what that formula does. That formula says, allows me to pick a different year, and then the formula updates there and tells me the complete folder, path to the folder to where I want my query to connect to. Okay, so that's the first thing. We need to know where we want to go with our query. And the other thing is, how do I enter this information on my query? So how do I make this dynamic so that when I change my selection here, I don't need to do anything else on my query and everything updates accordingly. So the first, there's a few techniques. This one is the one that I find that works best. There are other techniques that, especially when we are using queries to folders, it gives us an error of data privacy, whatever. So it's not, doesn't work very well, especially with folders. It works well with files, but not when we are pointing to folders. So I like this one better. What we need to do is this cell here where the path is, we are going to give it a name. So let's say the name is data folder path. So enter. I just named that cell. One named range composed of one cell only, called data folder path. Okay. So now what do? I'm going to copy this here. This is a portion of M code. M code is the language that is generated behind the scenes when we are using Power Query. And you can learn it a little. I don't know a lot of M code. I know a few bits of it that I learn every time I need to solve a problem. and I keep records of those, and usually we keep repeating the same. We keep every now and then we need to use the same type of information, and this one is for sure one of the code pieces of codes I use the most. So how can I make this total commissions report work for both folders 2019 and 2020? I go to my first step here, source, and I can see that all the path was recorded here, but it's fixed. I mean, it's not dynamic, it's hard coded here. How can we amend that? We can come to view, advanced editor. And in here, before the first step, where it says that the source is that folder, I'm going to create, let's say, a source 0 step. And I'm going to say that this is equal. I'm going to paste that piece of code that I showed you. I will explain what this means. And here, my named range, I'm going to replace this with the name of the range, the name I gave to that range that had the information for the path, folder path. And the name, the range, we named it data folder path. Okay, so that's our name there. At the end, I need to put a comma, because in M code, at the end of each row, we need to enter a code, comma, except for the last one. The last one doesn't have a comma. And what does this mean? It says Excel current workbook. So go to the current workbook where we are, look for a named range with this name, then look at the content of that range, column 1 of that content. Well, our range only has 1 column, 1 row, and 1 cell. That's it. But that's how the code goes. Look at the column 1 and look at the first cell of that column, because Power Query is 0 based. So the first record is record 0, and then the second record is record 1, and so on. So that's it. We just need to go and do, it's not finished, sorry. There's another thing that I need to do. So now that I say that source 0, it's whatever you read from there. Now my source, I come here and I say, my source is not this path that you had created here before. My source is whatever is given to us by the step source 0. And now that's it. Now we click done. It's just updating, no errors so far. So home, close and load. And now let's test this. So we have, for now we have 2019 data up to December, January to December. If I come here and change this to 220, then I need to come and refresh. I could do refresh all. I'm going to refresh from here. And that's it. We get our data updated according to the information that we have on folder 220. Okay, that only has files up to April. Okay, so this is it. I hope you liked it for this example, but I have more examples. This is it for this portion. But if you get too bored, let people know in the comments, and I'll shut up. Okay, so going back to my other examples here, if there are any questions where I'm opening the file, feel free to let me know, Alan, or any comments. So going to example 2, I'm going to talk about the possibility of disabling auto detection of data type. And I'm going to show an example of how filtering is not case sensitive, and to also about the need to be always watching the Power Query editor formula bar because strange things can happen. Excuse me. Okay, so Let's open here. In this case, I have another example. The first thing that I will mention is the possibility of turn off that automatic feature that comes by default in Power Query that makes Power Query try to guess all the data type of each column. It's quite handy, but sometimes it's a bit annoying because it creates errors, or it doesn't guess right, or the step happens at a stage where we don't want it to happen. In some situations, I find that changing the data type works better at a later stage of the query, but it all depends on what we want to do in that query. So how do we turn that off? If we come to data and then get data, here at the bottom we have query options. And this information is still coming up. Under query options, we have options for a global level and options for a current workbook level. The option we are looking for only exists here, data load, and here we have automatically, let me zoom that for you, automatically detect column types and column, let's see, automatically detect column types and headers for unstructured sources. So that's the one we want to uncheck if we don't want to have Power Query always guessing the data type of each column. I'm going to do OK. The thing is, like I mentioned, this setting was changed only for this workbook. So the next workbook we work with, and if we want to have use Power Query there, we would have to do it again. So in the end, this only makes sense if we are working on a workbook there where we are going to build a lot of queries, different queries, and we prefer the option turned off. It always depends on what you prefer. Okay, so let's do some examples after having switched that option off. And we will then use those tables later for the other two examples that I have here. So let's load the managers table and load the employee scores. The managers table is one table that I have here on a separate sheet of the same workbook. It's an Excel table, has employee IDs and the name of the manager they report to. To load these, we just need to click on top of the table and get data from table/range here. We need to wait a little bit. And there's nothing to do here. In fact, we just, the data is ready for us, or at least it looks at first sight. We will see later that there might be some work to be done here. And as you can see here on the right, it didn't apply the change data type step. So I have the employee ID column, the manager column, and I need to come here now and say, okay, this is text and the other one is also text. So I'm going to, in fact, select both columns and do text. Okay, so this one didn't change. Let's change here. Okay. And then close and load. So this was what happened with loading table. Nothing, what happened here? Oh, okay, still loading. Nothing very interesting to point. The next thing I'm going to do is to load the CSV and see if everything behaves the same. If we are now going to load the CSV, and I'm going to show you the two CSV files because we need to know what's inside for the next example. Just give you an idea of what's in there. So let's imagine this company has some kind of score system to assess their employees' performance. And we have a file here for 2018. where the employees got scores between 1 and 6 is the maximum score this year. And we also have another file for 2019, where employees have scores that go up to 8. That's the maximum value there. So, okay, so let's go and load the CSV file for 2018. We go data, get data, or here from file CSV, or we can go here, text CSV. Let me find the file. In fact, I have the path there, but I forgot to copy now. Here, here, and here. Okay. I get a note here that someone is trying to get access remote to my screen. Not sure what it is. I'm going to decline. Let me know if there's anything else that I need to do. Okay, so it's a CSV file. I'm going to transform the data. And the only thing here is to load those 2 columns. And what I wanted to point is at that in case of a CSV file, we don't have the automatic step to guess the type of data in each column. And we also lost that step that usually happens, that is make the first row to act like as headers. So here, use the first row as headers. So now we also need to do that manually. That gets deactivated when we uncheck that option on the query settings that we did. So promoted headers first, and now employee ID is text, okay, and the score, in fact, I want it to be a whole number. And close and load to. And I'm going to put these results in here. And that's it. Okay. So let's look at our numbers. We have all the list of employees, all the results. And now the manager comes and tells us, you know what? This year we are going to let go all the employees with scores 1 and 2. So everyone who got a score 1 or 2, please remove them from this list. Give me the list of only the employees I want to keep. Okay, so that's an easy request. I can come and edit this query. And I just need to filter those out. And there's different ways of doing that. The most relaxed way of doing that is just coming here and say, okay, uncheck 1, uncheck 2. Okay, that's it. Close and load. Okay, I get my list of people who got scores 3 or over 3, above 3. Nice. So now let's see what happens next year. Next year, our boss tells us, I'm going to save this file just in case. Okay, let's do the same thing we did last year, but only this time I want to let go people who have scores of 1, 2, or 3. So we just want to keep the employees with score 4 or above 4. So 1, 2, and 3, we are going to let them go. Okay, so good with that. I already have my workbook from previous year. I just need to go and update my query there, which I'm going to do here, resample here by duplicating this query. Duplicating the query means that I get all the steps exactly that the other query had. And I just need to change that. So this will be for 2019. And here on the filtered rows, I just want to go and uncheck 3 because I don't want score 3 this time. And I'm going to close and load. Oh, here in the source, I also want to update this to look at the file for 2019. Okay, all good. Close and load. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I should have closed and load to that other sheet there. So I'm going to just undo this very quickly. I'm going to load to only create connection first. Okay, it's telling me that I will lose my table. That's fine. Sorry about that. It's just easier to have all the information here. And then come close and load to, and we want to load it in the table to doesn't let me. Okay. Oh, it's not that one. Sorry. Let me go back. 2019. That's why it was not. I was not being given the option. Just a second. Sorry. So 2019. Load to. Only create connect table to an existing worksheet. This one. Let's put the results here. Okay. So remember, 2019 we had employees with scores up to 8. And we were told to filter out everyone with scores 1, 2, or 3. We don't want those. And we want the rest of the employees. Those are the employees that are going to be kept, and we are going to fire everyone else. So notice what happened here. I have scores of 4, 5, and 6. And my good people, extraordinary people with scores of 7 and 8, I don't get them. They are going to be fired. So what happened in this example? Let's see what happened here on the query. In fact, I should have opened the other one first. When we created the other query, I'm going to just a second, sorry. It's best to show this one first. When we created the query for 2018 and we said, check out, uncheck everyone with scores of 1 and 2, this was the formula that Power Query wrote when it recorded this step. So all the steps get recorded. It uses a language called M code, and it records the best if it finds the actions that we are taking. So I said, filter out everything that is not 1 and 2. And it said, OK, give me all the rows that have a score different than 1 and have a score different than 2. That's correct. That's exactly what we want. But then when I did those amendments on this other query, and I unchecked the 3 from my list, it decided to record a different formula. And it's just how Power Query decides to do it. Because I was working off a preview of my previous data from 2018, and I only had data up to scores up to 6. When I unchecked 1, 2, and 3, Power Query thought that I meant that I wanted to select 4, 5s, and 6s. So when I unchecked here, and it generated this formula for me. And this formula is not correct. So what I meant with this example, what I wanted you to see is that we need to pay attention. If we don't have the formula bar, you can come here to view and check, put a check mark here, formula bar. And always keep an eye on what's going on the formula bar, because for 2 things. One, you get used to the code and you will start learning. And 2, and most importantly in this case, you will pay attention to any possible errors. So we in fact wanted this to say score different than 1 and score different than 2. That's what Power Query should have done for us. 2 and score different than 3. Okay, so close and load. Let's wait a little bit. Now we have the 7s and 8s coming to our list, and nobody is going to be fired without a reason. Okay. Finally, an example here with the same file, also related to filtering. Let's imagine that someone asks us, please give me a list of all the employees that do not report to Sarah. And I had this on my query, and I decided to, for some reason, to use my query to filter. Of course, in this is a very simplistic example. We would probably just use the table. In a more complex report where we could have more information, we could go by the query. So I would come here. Another way of filtering is to use the text filter, text filters, and say does not equal, and I'm going to say does not equal Sarah. I want to get all the employees that report to someone else. Does not equal Sarah. Okay. And now I go in close and load. And see what we have here. In fact, this, okay, yeah, so we could have just a connection. In this case, I repeated the table on another sheet. Notice what happened here. I have still Sarah's here. And this is because the filter function here, the filter feature is case sensitive. So we need to pay attention to that as well, because if we are using this type of filtering to produce some kind of report, we may come to wrong results. So of course, to fix this, we would have to make sure that our data is prepared properly before. I could do two things. I could do Sarah, it's not equal to Sarah, capital letter, or not equal to Sarah, all small caps. But then there might have had people, had been people who wrote Sarah with a capital R in the middle, and that would be lost. So we can first, before filtering, we can come here to transform and then format, and say capitalize each word, for example. Insert this step, okay. And this makes sure now all the names are correct after. Did I, oh, sorry, I think I acted on the wrong table, it's not AMP ID, it's manager. So I acted on the wrong column. Now we're good. So now we have all the names capitalized, and after I filter and I say everyone that is different than Sarah, and now when I go close and load, I should not get any Sarah here in the column, in the managers column. Okay, so that's another thing that we need to pay attention to, is to make sure that when you use filter, remember that it's case sensitive. Finally, I'm not going to show an example because time is getting tight, but I'm just going to call your attention to the following. When we come here to a query and we right click and go to properties, we have this option that usually is checked up by default, saying enable background refresh. This allows Power Query to do the work of updating queries on the background while still doing other while the system continues with other actions, or taking care of different queries at the same time. this is good to speed up the process, but what this also does is that it allows the system to start other actions while our queries are not updated yet. And there's two situations where I've seen this being a challenge. So we need to really uncheck this. In situations like, for example, if you create queries to bring your data as tables and then you generate pivot tables out of there, and then you go to here, data, and refresh all, this will refresh both the queries and the pivot tables. But the thing is that pivot tables might update before the queries are updated, are refreshed. But if your pivot tables need the data from the queries, then they are updating on data that is not correctly, it's not fully updated yet. So you want to uncheck that checkbox there if you want to use the refresh all button to refresh both queries and pivot tables. And another situation is when, for example, I have a file with VBA that VBA takes care of updating the data, the queries, and then the information is saved as a CSV file, a separate CSV file. And if I don't uncheck that checkbox, what happens is that the CSV file is created before the query is done. That means that I generate a CSV file with the wrong information because it was created even before the data was complete. So those are two situations where we need to pay attention here, properties, and then enable background refresh. In some situations, you want to uncheck that. Okay, and that's it for now. I can maybe just let me see. Can close this, and I think I have my Power Query here. Where is it? It's here. And that's it. That's my contact information. I will be sending the contact information or the presentation after for Alan to make it available to those who want to try out the examples with the files. And I think that's all. I have the example to show that VBA thing not working properly, but I think I've been talking for almost an hour now. People may have questions. I'm going to stop sharing. Not sure if I talk too fast. Let me know if you have questions or comments.
There's a lot of people saying thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think there was too many questions, not in the Zoom chat. Everyone just seemed to be following you along. We had a question on the YouTube quite early on when you were showing the profiler, the column profiling.
Okay.
Is there a way to jump to the errors from there?
I think so. I'm not sure. I know that when I was preparing, oh no, I closed the file. Let me see if I can open it. When I was preparing the files for this presentation, I had in fact, and I'm new to using that feature, so I haven't used it much, but I had an error where one of the dates in the CSV files was incorrect. And I wouldn't have caught it. I mean, I don't know why it was generated like it wasn't being recognized as a date by Power Query, and I only caught it because of that. So I believe there's I would have to maybe create a scenario now, go to the file and change it, but somehow there's information there. I think at some point, not here, I think that you will have the possibility to click and see what the errors are. I know that I caught the errors this morning or yesterday.
It's no problem. I wasn't sure myself. I'm not sure if I've come across that before or not.
Yeah. So if you come to view and then column profile, or even column, you don't need the column profile, maybe you can maybe just column quality, and you know how many errors. But now we don't have errors to show. So
yeah.
But I know it's I think it will give you, oh, I think it will have a link. It will give you a link here saying, I don't know how many errors, and you click there and it will show you some information about those errors, if I'm not mistaken. If someone else is used to use this feature and can help on the chat, please feel free to do so. Oh, I was showing something, but you are not seeing, right? Because I forgot to share my screen.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah, don't worry. All right. There's any other questions? Pop them in the chat box. I don't know if you can see the chat box at the moment.
Yeah, I can see the one here from Zoom.
Yeah.
I have a file that has 37 worksheets and 37 queries, but all the files are the same layout, only name and content is different. The 30. Yeah, you can, if you want to gather all the files into just one final table, you just need one query. And you need to point the query and put the files in all this one folder, and that's it. And then you can grab the information, combine information from all the 37 files into just one final table. If you want to jump in between different files, like we did, for example, with the folder, you can use the same technique. So the video will be recorded, the session will be recorded, and it will be made available later. You can go through the video and see the steps that I've done to make possible to switch between the two folders, 2019 and 2019. The only thing is that instead of switching folders, you will be switching files. You just need to create the formula to give you the path to the file, and then make those changes into the Power Query editor and change the code to make that dynamic. I hope I answered the question.
Cool. Okay. Just checking any other questions. Just waiting for Andreas to give me the go ahead. I think he's gone to check on his potatoes.
Thank you to all of those who are providing feedback.
Yes, there's lots of thank yous in there for you, Celia.
Really nice to have you all here and to have the opportunity. It's just a small set of tips. In fact, in my presentation, the last on my PowerPoint, the last one of the last slides, you will be able to see there. I'm putting some other websites where I found some of these examples and many more. So you will be able. There's John McDougall's YouTube and blog. There's Os du Soleil channel. And there's another couple of articles that you may want to look at, and they all talk about different tips about tools that we can use in Power Query, and also this type of issues that we may not be aware when we are using Power Query.
You should be promoting your own stuff, Celia.
My own stuff. Well, this is about community, and there's there's not a lot to promote. I've been busy with other stuff, and my YouTube channel has only kind of half a dozen videos there, so there's not a lot to promote. I hope I find the time to maybe record some of these examples and make them available there. We'll see.
Sure, it's good to be busy.
Thanks.
Andreas, there you are.
Yeah, I'm back again. Yeah.
I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
Thank you,
does
everyone.
do we need a little break, or shall I start?
I'll say we go straight into it. If anybody wants to have a break, they can always. They could be having a break now. I don't know. I can't see or hear them.
So I will start.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Okay.
Thank you, Celia.
I start with a little survey. I've got 2 questions to you. I'm inserting the link into the chat area. It's a form survey of your usage of Office 365, and maybe you use Flow or Power Automate. This is what I'm talking about, Power Automate, and how you can automate your Excel files, your notifications without any additional stuff. So I'll share my screen now. Hope it works. Yes, these are the 2 questions to answer, and I will look at this in a few minutes. First of all, first a few slides. So that's me. Excellent Power Automate can do it for you. Me in former times. Yes, I'm Andreas Thehos from continental Europe, from European Union, Germany. And I'm very happy to join this British worldwide Excel meetup. We've got an own meetup group in Germany online. Is same size than you today, but you are growing much faster than we do, Ellen. Great. Yeah, I'm very happy to show you something, and I think that a lot of people don't know a lot of Power Automate of this tool Flow. And with Office 365, there are 2 subscriptions. You are able to automate your work. But first, a few words about me. I studied social sciences, applied social research. I did a lot of statistics, but I was not happy with working at university, and I started to be a consultant and trainer in 1999. I do trainings, Excel trainings, Teams trainings, and YouTube. I started in June 2010 with more than 1,400 tutorials, more than 1,000 Excel ones, but all in German. I'm sorry. So you have to learn German. And this is my channel. I love all my subscribers, less than Ellen. And this is my website. Okay. I started with Office 365 around about 6 or 7 years ago, when it was BPOS. This was the former tool. And Flow and Power Automate is a part of this Office 365. And I'm very happy to show you something. And I like meetups. I really like meetups. So Power Automate, I want to look at our survey. Where does it start? Here, 26 answers. Let's have a look. If it's well known or unusual to you, most of you are working with business enterprise, some of you with the free version or the personal version. Okay, and this is very interesting for me. Let's have a thought. Up 1 Pro, okay. Some of you are using it. Some of you have seen it, and for some of you, it's completely new. So I hope to show you some very interesting stuff. So let's go back to my presentation. Slide 2. Okay, Excel and Power Automate. I want to show you 2 scenarios to automate your notification is the first one, and the other one is to copy rows from one file to another, but without any VBA, or in the one scenario, you don't have to be online, or you can switch your computer off. This was a survey. So the first one is I want to be informed automatically if some values of my file are not the right size, maybe I've got a target size in my files, maybe revenue or hours to work. And if the numbers, the values don't fit, I will get informed automatically by an email. It's very easy to install. And scenario 2, I select a row in one table, click a flow button in Excel, and it will be copied, the rows will be copied to a closed file saved on my OneDrive. I will show you the scenarios first, and all the good news are, I told it, no VBA is needed, no programming. Your computer can be turned off. It functions in the night, so you can use it automatically to be informed when you are in holidays or so. And you need Office 365, and maybe you haven't got the right version because there are several kinds of subscription in Office 365. There's the free one, the online one, there's the personal one for around about, in Germany, it's 60 euros a year, and there's the business and enterprise version. And in the free or in the personal version, it's called Flow. Yes, this is the old name. In other menus, it's called the new name Power Automate. This is a view on the free version. And in enterprise and business, it's called Power Automate. But it looks the same at the first look, but it's not the same. So first of all, I will look at the free version. This is my free account of Office 365. And if I take a look at my apps, all apps, it's German here. Where are my apps? All apps. It's called Flow. I can click on Flow and wait. I hope the menu is changing to English. Yes. And with Flow, or here is called Power Automate, we are able to automate several steps. You can use connectors. You can use roundabout 350. I counted them, 349, 94 connectors to different services. So you can get information from Twitter. If there's a hashtag, you can get informed via notification or put the message inside an Excel list, or you can be informed via email if you got some news about Gmail. Put new data in an Excel file when there's something new in Gmail. And there's Excel Online, our topic. But Excel Online, there's a small word in the brackets. It says business. So there are a lot of templates here to use to get information or put information to email from Excel, to put your tasks from Microsoft Planner into an Excel file. But if I take a look at the templates, it says to me, you have to buy the business one. So let's have a look at my first example. These are templates. I will enter Excel, press enter, and got templates for Excel. Oh, wrong place, Excel. These are all templates you can use with other connectors and Excel. And for my example, I wanted to create a row in another spreadsheet for a selected row. This sounds very good. I select a row in a table and click a button, and I want to copy it into another file that is closed, saved on my OneDrive. But it says I have to use the business or enterprise version. There's also a premium version of Flow with additional connectors available for Dynamics or so on, for the real business use, but these we got in enterprise and business. So I will close this one and change to business. I started on another server, into another browser. So here's Power Automate 2. This is my business Office 365 Power Automate, and also templates on the left side in the menu. Same connectors. Here are my flows I already created. Templates, and also here searching for Excel and create a row. The same templates available here, and here I can use them. I will show you how it works first. I will open a small single Excel file, check values. A small table, 3 columns, 4 columns, 4 columns. Here's some names. So I think I don't have to send you the sample file. Here's some names, and here's some values and some goals. I'm not fitting the goal, Alice 2, and I select a row. And there's another file. I called it check values backup. And I think there's only one row, one single row. I will close this file. It's also saved on my OneDrive for Business. And if I click at Run Row and change on the tab Data, I see a Flow button because I'm using Flow. Click on Flow, and Flow is looking for flows for my flows who are connected with this table, with this file. And it needs some seconds. And here are some example templates. And here's the flow I already created. And here's the Celia row. I selected it by just clicking at one cell and run. You can see a run button. It's connecting with another file. I click run flow, and the row had been copied to the other file. I can also select 3 rows, but not selecting zones that aren't connected. I can select also 3 rows, click the run button, run flow, and let's have a look into the other file. I open it. Hope it worked. Reopen, okay. Uploaded failed. Here are, I did, there it is. This is my backup file. First I copied Celia in it, then the other 3 rows. Without any VBA, the file is saved on a SharePoint online or saved on a OneDrive. This is one single, very easy to produce example. And so let's try it out. I'll delete these rows here. What's happening here? Some stress by updating. Uploaded failed. Okay, I will check this later. Close file. I'm closing my files, and let's have a look at the templates. Oh, it's already opened. I can continue. I'm already connected with my email, with my account. You have to be connected with your Office 365 account. I'm continuing. And now I'm able to select both saving locations, store locations here. First of all, my OneDrive for Business. It's saved on my OneDrive. I've got several OneDrives, so this is a double entry. And I will select the file check value I already opened before. In this file, there is only one table, and it recognizes the table called table value check. I can have a look at it. I open it in Excel. This table is called table design. It's called table value check. So it has got 4 columns. So it recognizes the structure, the table names. So tables are very important. I select this table and I select the destination table, the destination workbook. It's also saved on OneDrive. It's also on OneDrive again. This is, I will delete the old connection. This is check values backup, this file, and there's also the same table name. It has not be the same name. And this is additional. These are the 4 columns of the second file, of the second workbook. There were 4 columns called value, goal, name, and goal not reached. And I'm able now to select data from the original file and move them to the target column, timestamp or username or value. I will take the value. Now, by clicking the goal, the name, and something different. What's about the username who is working? And I put this at goal not reached. Save. So this is an instant flow. This flow doesn't work automatically. There are flows I have to look for a trigger. Maybe there's a SharePoint list or hashtag at Twitter, and if this hashtag is published, this is a trigger to send me a notification. But I have to choose a row in my source file and then click my flow button. This is called instant action. And this instant action I have to choose from Excel. I can also use scheduled flows. So is everything clear? I cannot test it because it is an instant flow. Okay, no test, but everything is okay. I can check the structure of my flow and hope everything is saved, and my my flow has to be named. Click on save. Okay. Hope it had been saved. But this is, it's the same. This is a 10 seconds ago flow. I can rename it in the bottom. I call it Alan's Word. So save it. And now I'm able in Excel to use this flow. I open my check values file. Reopen. I've got stress with my OneDrive, with my login. And the flow button is in data, flow. And now they have to be 2 flows connected with this file. Some moments to wait. Here are both. And I'll take Alan's word click on Run Flow. Celia is selected. Click on Continue. The second scenario is more complex. I will show you. Run Flow and have a look at the second file. Reopen it, the backup file, and where it is. Reopen. It does not work. In my testing, it worked. Here it is. I was too fast. Here are the values, same as the upper row, but in my second flow, I decided to put in the username, and here it is. So it's an information, it's coming not from a row. I can create formulas or system information and put them into these rows. So if you have got several files, maybe some of your users get their own files and have the possibility to send their informations from different places to a central file. Here's the central file. Let's have a new tab. Here's the central file. Alan is getting a workbook, Tia, Celia, and Tony. And everyone can send their information as additional rows into a single file by just clicking this button in Flow. This is scenario 1. So I'll take a look at the chat. Has anybody got a question? Where's my chat? I can't see the chat. Okay, Alan, you will inform me if there's a question for me.
So all with Excel, all flows have to be run through tables.
This is an Excel sample. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the flow button here is just in Excel. And there are also flows in Outlook, so you can save, you can store your attachments to your OneDrive by clicking on a mail. The mail will be checked. If there's an attachment, automatically your attachment is saved on OneDrive or SharePoint. You get an email notification if there's somebody adding a file on SharePoint. So this flow or Power Automate is getting all the automation stuff you formerly would have been programmed with VBA. And I think it's great. And we have to explore it more.
So I was going to ask, if you create a flow, this is a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Can you share it with somebody else?
Oh, you have to. This is an organizational stuff. So in this case, anybody could create a flow for its own, and to do this, and has got the same opportunity to send their stuff to the same file. But in an organization, I got very hard discussions with IT administrators because they don't want to have flow in several situations, because this automation they can't control by what the normal user is doing here. So there's also in Flow an admin side if you look at the admin center, and there has to be something for central flows to share them with your organization. I don't see it here. So I guess you can't share your flow by sending the email or sending the file. But at this point, I have to look for information for myself.
Sure. Nice.
Yeah. So second scenario, another question?
There's a couple coming through, but we might have to deal with them after.
Yeah, okay. My flows. Scenario 2, the email notification. My flows, let's have a look at this send a customized mail when a new file is added. Let's have a look at this flow. I printed it out. This is a flow that is, oh, this is the wrong one. This was the SharePoint scenario. Recurrence, list rows present in a table. Was it? Is this one? Yes. Edit. Recurrence means that I can edit a timestamp, and for example, in this case, every 2 weeks, my file is checked. If there's something not okay with my file, or at the 2nd or 4th workday a month, my file is checked. If there are all data in the working hours table, and if there's something missing, I'll get an email notification. So I can set a timestamp, and then the file is checked. I also have to choose a file. It's the same file in this case, the same table. And in my table, there are 4 columns. And these columns, I'll check. I'll check my values. I'll build it in the next step from the scratch. And the conditions are like an if function. Check the value. If it's less or equal than the goal. If it's yes, then send me an email notification, write the name in it, and write the goal, the number. The number is not reached. The number of the file is not reached. Actual value is just, I write just value. In case of no notification. So let's have a look. I will test it. First, the flow checker on the upper right, the flow checker, then test it. And I'll perform the trigger action because I don't want you to wait 2 weeks. I'll perform the trigger action, save and test, and it checks the Excel file. And I guess mine and Alice values were not as large as the goal. And I run the flow, and I've got a check row in it, in my data, so that I'll get automatically 1 mail minimum. So let's have a look at in my Outlook. I'll check my apps, and let's have a look in Outlook. And here are the mails on, or here. No, oh yeah. Check mail is not reached. Actual value is just, this is the check mail. So I'll get finally at least 1 mail. And Ellen, 4 is not reached. Oh, this is action not correct. 4 is not reached. Actual value is 4. What's the problem? Let's have a look at the file. Here's less or equal than. Everything is okay. less or equal, then I choose less or equal. I got a mail from Ellen, less or equal, it's okay. Everything was okay. And from Andreas and from Alice, and this check mail. So if all values are correct, I finally at least get one mail, so I can see my automation is working fine. So let's have a look. There were 2 other mails. I did not recognize them here. Andreas, 4 is not reached, actual value is 3, and Alice, 8 is not reached. So how to create it? I'm doing a flow from the scratch. Where's my flow? Power Automate. Power Automate. I'm starting in Office 365. It's working all online, and I create a flow on the left side. Automated flow triggered by a designed event. No, there's no trigger action. I don't wait for adding some file on a server or so. Instant flow was triggered by manually action. There's a flow app for your smartphone too. So you can push a button and the flow runs. This is, I guess, in premium. And I will take a scheduled flow. Scheduled means, okay, this means next meetup is in 2 weeks. Meet up check. So starting tomorrow, 10 a.m. It's okay. Every minute, every second, no, every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. I have to uncheck all days that are not within here. I create, and this is the first step, the recurrence. So any 2 weeks, new step. So what's possible? I can check mails, the weather. If it's raining, my email says take an umbrella or something like this. If there's a notification in Microsoft Teams, look automatically every 2 months, 2 weeks into my Teams and give me a status mail about some issue. And no, I want to use Excel online. And there are several actions here. Delete a row if they get a row or add a row into a table. What want I want to look. I selected list rows present in a table. I want to have a look in all of my rows of a table. Every row has to be checked. So I have to select the file. So OneDrive, choosing the file. Check values and the table value check. So this lists me all rows and I can check any row one by one. Next step, a control. I need a control. Control means my values has to be checked, choose a value. So, and here are all of my items of my table. And here's goal, for example, or here list of items, goal and, is this doubled? No, goal and value. Value, I think, is whole one. I have to take value. Value was the column name. Okay, let's, oh, I did a mistake. So condition, value here is equal to, is less than target. Here are all my columns, target. Where is it? A goal. I called it goal. I could add additional options. And if yes, what's then? add an action, send a mail, send a message in Microsoft Teams, change the weather. No, notification via mail. And send me a mobile notification. No, send me an email notification. And this is the subject, goal not reached. And then I can choose all of my values here from my row. Name is less than her goal. And then I'll take both of the values. Value is smaller than, is less than goal. Okay. In case of no, I don't need any action. Save. So you have to test it. I did many steps, and if I click the flow checker on the upper right, it says there are errors or warnings. And if I click test, maybe it stops at several points if I choose the wrong field. So I'll perform the trigger action, do it by click now, save and test. So run flow, and now I'm getting all of my emails again. Flow was successful, and I can click once, save, run successful. Yeah, it succeeded. It shows me in a list of items of all runs. Any 2 weeks, it shows me was it successful or not, which connections had been chosen, shows me some information about my flow. And so you can build and test your own flows, but implementing in an organization, I think you have to talk with your admins. Let's have a small look at the connectors. Of course, Dynamics, all the hardcore stuff, SAP, I think it's a part of OneDrive, of course. And in some cases, it says premium. So you have to buy per user the premium license. Azure is premium too, but these are the maximum opportunities here you have. Dynamics, of course. The smaller or free third-party tools you can use for free, and some services here it's getting more and more premium. So there are many connectors added. Last time I looked at it in February, it had been 40 connectors, no, 30 connectors less. So it's increasing very fast here. So this is my small part of your meetup, Erlen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You don't want to get involved in my world, Andreas.
Pardon?
You don't want to get involved in my world, Alan's world. But then you would know that.
So I think we have. Yeah, I think we have all to take a closer look into this tool. Yes, because everyone is programming VBA, and VBA, you know, all the virus Trojan problems. We have to use this automatically Microsoft techniques to not to open our machines for evil stuff. Yeah.
There have been some questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
But I want to get on. So if I can ask you to just check that for me.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And Tony, if you're ready, we need to get you involved. Thank you, Andreas.
Oh, here's someone asking for my webcam. I can answer. I'm using my Surface Book. Yeah.
Ah.
And I raised my laptop. I have it on a plastic box, my notebook, to raise the camera and there's a daylight lamp because I'm always sitting in my cellar, and for my mood, Dutch tulips. Yeah.
Very
so
good,
I will look at
Andreas.
the question. Tony.
Hello. Well, good evening, everybody.
Hi, Tony.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okie-doke. Let's share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, welcome to Scheveningen, The Hague, the Netherlands, where I live. It's actually right at the coast here of the Netherlands. And as you can see, we have a big beach over here, the pier, the promenade. We even have a wheel over here. So once the coronavirus is off, you're happy to visit us here right at the beach. Well, a few words about myself. I'm the founder of the Amsterdam Excel BI Summit, which I started in 2014. Unfortunately, last week would be the next one, but we had to cancel that one because of the coronavirus. I'm also the founder of the annual Excel Experience Day, which is running here in the Netherlands, Excel Expert Class and the Excel Summer Boost. And these are the annual events that are running since, I think, 2006. And I've created many, many spreadsheets for different companies since 1985. And I started my consultancy in 1993, and since 2015, I'm the most valuable professional as designated by Microsoft. So that's a bit about me. And today I'm going to show you a bit of what I've encountered as what I call tips and tricks that can ease up your life in Excel. And there are old tricks, new tricks, and we'll see how far we'll go this evening. The first trick I'm going to show you is this one over here, and I'll have here a sheet with some dates and some revenues. And what we want to do is basically extract from the sales sheet a report that shows a report by year. So it would show a report for 2017, 18, 19, and 20. So we should have the years coming over here. And of course, we would like to know what the sales are for these years. So that's the question. How do I do that? Well, since we now have the advent of the dynamic split array formulas, we can use to apply these in this instance. And again, the dynamic split array forms can only be used once you have the new version of the Office 365. I'm not quite sure if everybody has that, but I have some websites over here to go to see what they are. So if like, let's go to the, let's find out now how to create that one. The first one here is actually, if I want to know the year, okay, equals year. Go. If I want to have the year out of this date range over here, then let me just check if the names are okay over here. Table design. This is called date revenue. Okay. Okay, so I want to use three functions over here. The new function is sort, unique, and year. With the sort functions, I can sort anything out of this list over here by date. And I want to have the unique values for the years. So how would that work out? Equal sign, sort. Tab space. Click on the fx over here, insert function, because the new function, I want to see what I'm actually entering over here. Now, the array would be a collection of unique years. So there is a new function called unique. So I have to fetch the function unique now. Let's go here to the name bar, name box. And since I've used it recently, it's already there, unique. Now the unique and the array is actually, something out of this column B, but of course I have to figure out the year first. So I have to pick out the year. So let's go to year. It's not there. More functions. I know it's a date and time function, pick up the year. So the year out of this table here. So this table is called data revenue, data rev. Pick out all the items from the date column. So now go back to the sort. To the sort function, click with your mouse on the sort function, click. You see what happens? In the array now it shows 2017, 1920, and 2018. How do I want to sort it? Well, I'll just press OK. You see what happens? It now automatically finds the unique years of this whole batch over here. And it does it automatically without any copying or pasting. So that is called spilling. So that's very new actually in this version of Excel. Because in the old version you had to find some kind of a formula and you had to, copy it all the way down as you would see to fit. For now it automatically copies anything down. So if I look over here, it automatically shows this blue area. So now I have to find out what the sales are. Which function shall I use? I think sum ifs will do the trick. Equal sign, sum ifs, double click. Click on the fx over here, insert function. Now, what is the sum that I want to summarize? That's the revenue over here. Click. So data revenue should be summarized under the condition that the column over here, the date revenue date, is greater than, and I have to do it like this, open quotes, greater than, ending quotes, ampersand. And now I have to use the date function, date. And it starts actually with the year. The year can be found over here. This is the year. Then the month would be 1. And the day would be 1. So greater than the 1st of January 2017. Now, same story. The second criteria range would be that this date over here will be less than, so open quotes, less than, equal sign, ending quotes, ampersand. Now the date, function date, again for this year, the month would be 12, the day would be 3/1, closing brackets. Maybe here I would also do here like greater than or equal sign. So if I press OK, it would only show me the sales for 2017. And in the old days, I had to copy the formula all the way down. Well, there's a new trick now because we're working with the dynamic spilled array formulas. I'll do the following. Press Fx. The E5 over here, I replace the 5 with this hashtag sign, the pound sign. Sorry, E5. E5 hashtag, meaning anything after that one. Here the same E5 hashtag. Press enter. You see what now happens? Wow, it automatically spills down the formula to all the area that I need. So if I double click over here, let's make it a bit bigger. See what happens? So because of this hashtag sign, it instructs Excel to copy this formula all the way down, and as far as we have records on the year column. Well, this is a very new function that will get you to the job you want to do, and will save a lot of time. Well, by the way, this function is called, in Dutch, it's called de dynamische overloopmatrixformules. In Deutsch, es heißt die dynamische verschüttete Matrixformel. In French, it's called the formule matricielle dynamique de tableau propagé. In Espanol, formulas de matriz dinámica de ramaras. Well, anything. If you ask me this file, I'll have here the web links towards the different sites you can read about the dynamic formulas. So let's go to the second example. The second example here. It's the Eurovision Song Contest dashboard. Okay. So sorry. Let's call this sheet, this table, data Euro. Okay. So we see all the countries that are participating in the Eurovision Song Contest, all the 44 of them, or 46 of them, with the points given, and the ranking has already been calculated here. So what function did I use there? This is a function I used to calculate the ranking. The function is called rank.eq. So what it does is actually go to the column of the points, or actually no, find this number and see which rank it will take in looking at the points. And 0 means automatically ranking. So this is number 30, this number 17. But what happens if we have the same points appearing? Then we would probably have trouble if this would become 4, 5, 6 again. Let me go over here. Yeah. Well, something is wrong here. I'm not quite sure what it is. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, so here is a new function. Let's just get rid of the functions over here. Let's make it new. Let's create the formulas from start. So the ranking can be defined as follows. There's a new function called sequence. As sequence, there is sequence. Click on the affix. So how many rows do I need in my sequence? Well, the number of rows can be found actually here in the column. If I want to know how many items appear in the country code, I can use the formula count A. So let's get count A now into the play. Count A, more functions. You can also do as follows: count A, go, there is count A. And we want to count how many countries we have in this column over here. Okay, so there we have it. Let's go back to the sequence. How many columns do we want to see? One column, so we have 45 rows, one column, the rest we don't need. Press OK. See what happens? It automatically spills out all the 45 countries over here. Same 45 countries that we have over here in our presentation table. Now we need to find out which country belongs to number 1, which country belongs to number 2, etc. For that, we're going to use the function index. Index avix. Press OK. Well, the array is obviously where we can find the countries, which is in this column. And in which row do I have to find it? We have to use the function match for that one. So let's get and pick up the function match over here. I recently used it, so it's already here, match. I want to match this ranking over here. But since I want to spell out, I have to use the pound sign, hashtag sign. Look up the array is over here. Match type should be an exact match type, so it would be a 0. Let's get back to index. Click with your mouse on index over here. Click. The column number is only one column, so it's 1. Press OK, and there we have it. It automatically spills it down towards the last cell automatically. See? And you see again the blue rectangle around this area appearing, meaning that you've used a dynamic spilled formula. So what about the points? Can we fetch the points? That's actually, again, index. The points can be found over here. The row number we don't know. We are going to use the match function for that one. Go to pick up the ranking over here. Hashtag sign. Look up in this ranking area. Match type 0. Click on index again. Column number 1. Press OK, and there we have it. So as you can see, another application of using spilled functions. So this is actually a new function called sequence, combined with already a well-known function called count A. Count the number of appearances in an area. Here is actually the normal index formula, but now in combination with the hashtag sign. Same story here with the second index function. Okay, so far so good. Any questions so far? Mind you, if you're using any of these spilled formulas, you have to be careful that you don't put anything underneath it. Best is to leave it empty. So make sure you have an input area, which is this area, and then you have an output area, which is, free for this to cater and take all the output. Okay.
What would happen if you put something in the way?
Then you get like an error message, which is called like hashtag spill, which means that something is blocking your way. That is what would happen then. Yeah.
Okay, great.
By the way, we organized the Eurovision Song Contest in The Hague here, in my city here, in 1980. Well, nice to know. And actually, we were supposed to organize the Eurovision Song Contest in Rotterdam this year, but of course, due to the coronavirus, it did not happen. Anyway.
That was the year I was born, Tony.
Yeah, 1980?
Yeah.
Gee, what's another year? Well, actually, that's the year that Johnny Logan won the Eurovision Song Contest with What's Another Year? Anyway, let's go to the third example. Now, many people have asked me how do you create a dummy database? Sometimes it happens that you all of a sudden need a dummy database to show some examples, and you cannot use any of your real examples because, you know, it's confidential. So Office 365 has, again, these nice spill formulas. So let's see how that work out with these spill formulas. Let's create a column for number. Let's say we need 5,000 of these dummy items. So I would use sequence. Click on the FX. And as you can see, this is my habit. I always press the FX button to see actually what is underneath the formula, because the function wizard, as it's called, will help me to guide through the formula. It shows me I have to enter at least, you know, certain elements, certain arguments to complete the formula. And I don't have to think about the parentheses. I don't have to think about the colons or the semicolons or commas. I mean, if you have the American notation, it's a comma. If you have the European notation, it's a semicolon. And, you know, I'm working for different clients. Sometimes you have the comma, sometimes you have the semicolon. So I don't want to be, you know, distracted by all of that. So that's why I'm always using the function wizards. So how many rows do I want to enter? I want to have 5,000 rows. So how many columns would that be? It's one column. And you would start with the number 1, and you will step 1 forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Press OK. Presto, there you have it. Wow. See? Goes all the way to number 5,000. Okay, now let's have some dates in there. Let's suppose I want to have some dates between the 1st of January 2017 and the last date would be the 31st of December 2020. Now there is this function called rand array, which is a new spill function, so to speak, dynamic spill function. Click on the FX. So how many rows do we want to have? Well, the number of rows is determined by how many rows I have in column A. So I can use the function count A for that one. Count A. Everything, count the number of arguments in column A, closing brackets, -1, because the number will not be part of the counting. So 5,000 rows. Okay. So next question is how many columns? It's only one column. What is the minimum value, the minimum date? Well, I can use the function date. The year is 2017. 1 for January, 1 for the 1st of January. The maximum is 2020. The month is 12. 31st, the last day of the year. Integer. I'll enter 0, which means that I can use decimal numbers. So false or 0 are decimal numbers. A 1 or 2 would have integer numbers. So let's put in, for example, 0. Okay. And now it finds the dates. Well, since we have the dates, it's best not to use a 0. I think it's best to use a 1 and 1. So there we have it. The different dates are there. Wow. So now let's get some products over there. Let's say we have 4 products: video, audio, computer, and other. How would I put them in the dummy database. We use the function choose avec. The index number, well, the index number is defined by the function rand array. So let's fetch the function rand array. Rand array. So how many rows? Well, count A for the whole column A -1, so it's 5,000 rows. How many columns? It's 1. Minimum is 1 and the maximum is 4 because we have 4 products. Integer should be a decimal number, so it's false, and false is 0. Let's get back to choose. Click. Now I have to enter the values. Video. Let's go to the next box. It automatically puts the quotations over there. Audio. We have computer. And we have others. Press OK. And there we have it. Wow. As you can see, this is the formula that I have entered right now. And of course, if you have to do it manually by hand, you can do so, but it becomes very confusing. That's why I'm always using the function wizard, because if you see like -1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 0, you don't know what it is. But let's suppose you want to analyze this formula afterwards. No problem. Go to FX, click on, for example, rand array, click, and you see what rand array does. See? Click on choose, click, you see the choose function. So it helps you also to understand difficult formulas later on. So now the amount. Okay, so now we're going to have the amount over there. Let's have rand array again, rand array. The first question, how many rows? Again, count A for whole column A, -1. How many columns? There's only 1 column. What's the minimum amount? 500, for example. Maximum will be 10,000. And again, integer, do you want to have a decimal? Let's suppose you want to have a decimal. So it must be true, and true will be a 1. Or if you want to have a, no, sorry, true is for the integer. Let's suppose you want to have a decimal, you have to put a 0 over there. False or 0 for decimal number. Okay, there we have it. And there you have your dummy database. And of course, you can convert this into values to, you know, have a nice dummy database, because these are all formulas. Nice, huh? So again, the sequence, which is a typical new function. The rest here are the rand arrays, which is also a new function. And the rest are already existing functions in Excel. Okay.
Tony,
any questions?
yeah. Can I just show the formula in the products column again?
Yeah, sure. So let's do FX again. So I'm going to use choose. The index number here, which is determined by rand array and count, will give a number between 1 and 4. So if it has found 1, it will pick up video. If this results in 2, it will pick up audio. If it results in 3, it will pick up computer. If this one results in 4, it will pick up other. And rand array does nothing more than tell me how many rows I need. And that can be defined by count A in column A, count the number of appearances or occurrences in column A, -1, because the number is not part of the counting. So it finds 5,000 rows. How many columns must it be? It's only 1 column wide, so it's 1. And it must start with 1. 1 and 4 because we have 4 products. And the 0 means here, well, we had to have a, I don't have to be 0. I think it has to be a 1 here because we want to have an integer. So it must be in 1 here, 1. And that's it. See? So you can baffle your friends with this nice formula when they see it's like, wow, what a difficult formula. Yeah, sure. If I see the formula like that, it will be a difficult formula for me as well. But if you do it step by step by using the function wizard, it will really help you to, you know, create these type of formulas. Again, available in Office 365. I have here some websites. So if you go to these websites here, click over here, you can see the websites. Well, this is, I guess, the German one, but you have an English one as well, and it shows you, you know, what this formula, what these formulas are supposed to be doing. There are even more of these formulas. We have seen the sequence, the sorting, unique, eindeutig in German, and well, we haven't seen the filter even yet. And so it's a really nice website to, you know, get familiar with these type of formulas. But be careful, you can only use these type of formulas if your customer, if your work area also has this Office 365. It's not backwards compatible. So if you send this to somebody who does not really have this, then you get some error messages. Okay, so let's get to the next one here. What is this here? Oh, we already saw this one here. Oh yeah. We have this simple table of here, some projects showing up with some numbers here. It could be, you know, cost numbers and some dates over here. The starting date, to fill in the starting date. Here is the 1st of August 2019. So the next dates must be calculated. Somebody asked me how to do that. Well, it's very simple actually. The function to use that is actually the date function. So pick up the year out of this former cell. Use the month function out of the former cell +1 because we have to go 1 month further down the road, and the days 1. And this function has been copied all the way down to the right-hand side. I was really amazed in the beginning because I was thinking about how will he act when changing the years. Well, for example, here it does indeed change the years. If I click on the affix over here, affix, it will show me actually that this year will be 2019, the month will be 13, and the day will be 1. Well, of course, there is no 13th month. Well, some companies, they give you a 13th month, but Excel does know a 13th month. So when that happens, it automatically says, okay, this must be the next month in the new year. So it automatically returns this or converts into January 20. Same story when you go backwards in time. Sometimes it will find the month will be 0 and the year will be 2018. So it means that it has to go back to the former year. So actually, there's only one formula. The other thing also, what comes to mind is that I have the Dutch version of Excel. So my months looks like this, see? October, November, December. But what would happen if I want to display it as an English notation? Well, you can use this text formula over here. Let's go here, the text formula over here. Picks up the date over here. And this code designates which country it is. So the $-0809, closing brackets again, means it should be English notation. So we have different ones here. If you want to have the French notation, you can change that into 040C. Spanish one will be 0C, 0A, etc. Well, here's a file or a link that will show all the different countries. So here you can see we have the English notation. So if I would change that, for example, into German, 0407, I'll change this into 407. Well, that's all the same. Let's go. See, there it changed into December, huh? Which means December in German. There you go. So it's Spanish. Huh? You changed this 0407 into OC08. Oh, that's it. The next question was, okay, now we need to summarize all of the 2019 in this cell. So actually we need to find the sum of all the 2019, which would be this 1498. But of course it can change. Eh? If I change this into, for example, the next month, then of course it would be only what we can do is here the sum formula, sum if formula, sum ifs formula again. We've seen it earlier already, so now we are going to use not the columns, we're using the rows here to summarize the sum ifs formula, again with greater than or equal than with the ampersand. So, okay. Let's go to some charts now. Okay, next question came along. So this company has some parts that need to be checked. Some were defects, no delivery, wrong component, add-on work, other, etc. And then they count the quantities for a certain period of time. You want to have this nice Pareto chart. You see, what happens is that we have 48 of these wrong components. You see the percentages over there. The next one will be the defects, 22, etc. Well, this looks like a very difficult chart, right? And you see the order and sequence doesn't really matter. Huh? Actually, it's very simple here. Just mark this area. Go to insert. Go into the charts. And I think it's this one here. The where is it again? No, that's not the one. Where was it again? Here. Insert. Here it is, histogram. And you take this one here. And that's all there is to it. See? It automatically does the sorting from large to small. And the orange sequence in which here it appears doesn't really matter. I could have the wrong component here in the last line. So it automatically actually sorts it like this. So, well, really nice chart. Most people think, oh, it's very difficult to create such a chart, but it's not. Huh? Again, under insert, histogram, you can find it. Okay, let's get to the next one. Oh yeah, a chart showing the last 6 months. It's always a nice one, right? So here we have then the last 6 months would be like this. So this would be shown in a chart. So if the last bit was not here, see, it would pick up all of this here. Well, how do I create such a dynamic chart? Do I need to have any macros for that? No, you don't need any macros for that one. You need to create a placeholder. Where's my placeholder? It's actually over here. It shows me the 6 occurrences. Well, I'll start actually with 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in this order. And the only thing that I'm going to use is here the period. And this is the function that I use. Maybe you don't know the function. It's called offset. What is offset doing? Offset, it says, okay, you have to start with a cell that starts in B4. So start with the period B4 here and go a certain number of rows down below. The number of rows that he has to go down below can be recorded by the function count A. So count the number of occurrences in column B minus this number over here. So this subtract this number. What it does is actually then how many columns you want to go to the right? Nothing. So stay on the one you're on. So actually go from B4 and then 16 rows down below. So it actually goes from here and then 60 rows down below. So it adds over here. It puts the value over here. Now this formula has been copied down all the way to here. The sales, same story. Now only looking then basically starting in C4 and then how many rows down below can be found by using function count A in column C minus the number which is over here. I've created another help column here which is called period. What it does is basically creating a text from the function. Let's make it a bit bigger. So take the date in the column F, convert it into English notation, which is the one that we already saw earlier before. So this is the English notation. This between square brackets, the $ -0809. Ampersand, character 13, which means the hard return, which means that anything that comes after that will be shown in the charts down below in the next line. Combine it again with text, and we take then the year. Because I have the Dutch notation, for me it's the JJ. In the English notation, American notation would be probably be YY. So that's it. And then the chart is based on these two columns, and that's it. And that's how you create a chart showing the last 6 periods or whatever. So if it would be the last 12 periods, very simple, and then you have to do like 12, 11, 10, etc. Very nice.
Thank you, Tony.
Any questions so far? How I'm doing on time?
I think that unless there's anything that you really want to show, I think that probably wraps us. Okay, somebody just asked if you can share the file.
Sure. I can share the file. So I'm going to share the file as follows. I will send my file to Alan, and then he can distribute it to amongst of you.
There was a lot of love for you using the function wizard window.
Yes. I mean, some people say, oh, Tony, you're already MVP. You don't need to have the function wizard. Well, sure I do, because I'm always getting confused when I'm working with, you know, what I call nested function, a function within a function. Then it becomes very difficult if you have to do it by hand, because there are so many brackets, so many what we call the separators. Sometimes it's a comma, sometimes it's the semicolon.
Yeah, I like the mention of the semicolon and the comma.
And the same story with the what do you call the quotations. The quotation can be will also appear automatically when you use the function wizard. So it really helps me also to understand the formula and building of the function.
Yeah. Yes. Just checking if there's any questions being asked if the Amsterdam Summit's happening.
Yeah, hopefully next year, because this year it won't be happening, I think, because yeah, it will be difficult to organize something this year. So anything will be postponed to next year.
All right. Thank you very much, Tony.
Well, thank you very much. It's a good night from me from Scheveningen. The sun has just gone down here as well. So
yes,
be safe and be happy.
Thank you very much. And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, thank you to all our speakers, Celia, Andreas, Tony. Hope everybody got a lot from that. It's a bit of a monster session. Feel free to put any questions you might have in the chat. Hopefully we'll still be able to get back to you. If not now, I can see a lot of our speakers are still, they're still here. Next meetup is on the 5th of May with Danielle, as I mentioned at the start. So hopefully I'll catch a lot of you again then.
And for any people who are speaking German, our next Germany meetup is on 29th, next week on Wednesday, starting at 7 p.m. Continental time.
Yeah.
Do we have an invitation for that one already?
Yeah.
You will get one, yeah?
Okay, good. So it's from your home, Andreas.
Yeah, we are meeting online too, but via Microsoft Teams.
Okay, good.
We have got several speakers. VBA is the topic, Power Query, DEX functions.
And no captions.
Okay.
No caption, no, no.
I know that Teams has a feature that allows you to enable captions, but I think it depends on certain settings, and it's not always available. So since we are talking about meetups, I can also inform everyone that Toronto Meetup Group is having a new session this week on Wednesday. Thehos du Soleil will be the speaker presenting about Power Query tips as well.
Oh yeah.
Other tips, not different from the ones I presented today. So this week, so if you go to the Meetup website or Meetup app and look for Excel Toronto, you should be able to find our group. You can register as a member, and then you will receive notifications when we come up with new sessions. So this week is also, and the next one will be very interesting as well. Next week, it will be Cristiano Galvão from Brazil. He will be presenting about data streamer, so collecting data on real time in Excel using Arduino, which is a kind of a electronic board that you can connect to different sensors, connect to temperature, distance, all types of different sensors, and get your data flowing into your Excel spreadsheet on real time and make analysis out of there. It's a very interesting device. So if you are curious about it, stay tuned, and we will be posting about this soon.
Yes,
thank you so much,
free.
Alan.
It's free, yes, for Office 365 subscribers, this data streamer, and for educational, I guess.
I think it's free, but Cristiano, I'm not sure if he's still online. If it is online, he would be the one to reply.
He's on YouTube.
He was on YouTube.
It's just
from devices, distance, humidity, real time. YouTube has a delay of about 20 seconds, so he may not have heard the question yet. We will Arduino and Excel. I think it's the application is free, and of course you need to buy the equipment with the sensors to connect to your computer.
Yeah, it was for subscribers only because schools have the educational version of Office 365. Maybe it's free now.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. Sorry. Maybe Cristiano can answer. If not today, maybe in a week. A little over a week. On the 29th, I think it's the date we have scheduled with him, and it will be around, so it will be a bit late for you, but if you register as an attendee, then you will receive the video recording and all the information if you cannot attend on real time.
Okay, Alan, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah?
Right.
Yeah, of course. Celia made a function to grab the file path, and she used the function cell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then you used file name between quotes.
Yeah, that's how the formula works.
If you have another language?
Bestandsnaam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How can you deal with that?
Oh, I'm not sure. It will when you start using the cell function, maybe the dialog box that Tony was using all the time will give us some clues on that.
No, that doesn't work. No,
it doesn't,
no,
because it's an old function, I think.
No, it's between quotes. It's just text.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think.
And what happens if you type file name? What happens on your
the Dutch
end?
version.
Does it give you an error?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We would have to try and search a little bit. I'm not sure how that function will work, but there's a couple of issues with functions like that. The date, like Tony was saying, when we put date text and then we put y for a year, then when we send the file to other countries, sometimes it doesn't work depending on their settings. And I think the cell function works a little bit like that. I'm not sure what the setting is for. I don't know what the setting is for other languages. Sorry.
Okay.
So Cristiano was saying that Excel Data Streamer is available for 365 users, Office 365. I'm not sure if there's any difference between educational licenses, those business licenses. I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like there's differences between those types of subscriptions.